All right, so
Awesome.
I think we're
We're good to
get
go.
started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we Matt is on a well-deserved PTO. I'm actually not sure where he's at. The last I heard, the rumor was he's in Hawaii. I truly hope he is. But with that, I am Francisco Cruz Mendoza. I'm the head of community here at Replit. And I'm paired up here. I'm so lucky to have Manny back. Who's just an incredible member of the community, doing incredible things across the web. And we'll be talking a little bit about connectors. But yeah, Manny, you want to introduce yourself, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody, Manny Bernabe here. I am a Replit ambassador. I'm a Replit builder. I build a lot of stuff in Replit. I love sharing what I'm building. I love talking to all of you, my fellow Replit builders, and just bounce ideas off of each other and share different builds. So excited to be here, to be co-hosting with Francisco, filling in for the mighty and powerful Matt Palmer, who is taking some well-deserved PTO time. And I mean, wherever he is, I'm sure he's putting some new personal best squats somewhere and still keeping it up. And the guy's such a stud. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking about connectors.
Awesome. Thanks again. And again, for anyone who's in the chat, I will be checking out the chat. Any questions that are relevant to whatever we're speaking about at the moment, I'll do my very best to kind of loop in as we're having our conversation here. And of course, anything that's a little bit more general, I'll send to the very end. But we'll be keeping an eye out here as best I can. And with that, I'll let Manny kind of dive into connectors.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Francisco. Okay, so before we jump in, I've got a question for folks. I'm wondering if you've ever had to set up a Google service API for an app. So you have to go get an API, you have to get it authenticated, you have to set it into your app. And if you've done that, drop an emoji in the chat. And the emoji that comes to mind for me is this skull emoji. So feel free to use that if you like. But if you've done that, you've had to set up Google Calendar or Google Drive or Google Mail or Gmail for an app, and drop an emoji that represents how you felt doing that and making that happen. And then Francisco, you can kind of tell me what the chat is coming up with.
Sounds good. Yep, coming in. Looks like we've had a few people who have had to deal with this before, clearly.
Cool. Yeah, I'm seeing I'm seeing that too. Yeah. So Francisco, this is actually pretty tough. Like I looked up a tutorial on how to do this. So if you go here, I got like a video, but you have to go to Google Cloud, set up a new project, create that project, add some details. You have to look up the service that you want to enable. Google Drive, Drive, Mail, or Calendar. You have to enable it. You have to add some credentials, and it goes on and on and on. There's a lot that you have to do. But now in Replit with connectors, all you have to do is head over to integrations, scroll down to Google Calendar, and just sign in with your Google Calendar account. And that's it. It's set up for your application. So as you can see, like going through all these steps versus just one click and you have that enabled for your app is such a big deal. So I'm really excited about this new feature. I've already built out a couple of different applications that I want to share with folks leveraging this new feature. So pretty pumped about that. All right. So what I want to talk about first is just kind of why I think this fits in with the ethos at Replit. And when I think about Replit and why it is my go-to vibe coding platform, I think of I see Replit as the great friction reducer. And that sounds a little bit weird, but I remember getting started with coding and programming. And when you do that, you have an idea of something that you want to do. And pretty quickly you find out like, oh, there's all these things that you have to set up to actually build the app or get to the coding part. Like you have to download an IDE, you have to get a program, download that, you have to manage all your packages. And that's just to get to hello world. And so Replit comes along early on, it's like roughly like 7 years ago, over 10 years ago, and says like, hey, you shouldn't need to do that. You should just be able to do that on your browser, stand it up, and get to coding super, super fast. So again, reducing the friction to you getting to Hello World or actually working with an application or code. And that sort of continues. So now, like if you're vibe building or you're vibe coding, you're setting up an application, you might say like, oh, like now, like I need to get data set up for this particular application. And you find out like, oh, you have to go and you have to set up Supabase and you have to find out what a schema is. Well, that's not the case in Replit. That's already covered for you in Replit. Same thing with authentication. So you have to build an app and you find out that you need to get people to sign up for it. You have to collect emails. Okay, that's another service that you have to figure out how to integrate into your application. Not the case in Replit. There is native authentication in Replit to help you manage that as well. And so again, this is sort of I think the story of Replit. It's this great friction reducer that helps us get to our idea or our app as fast as possible. And so in that context, like I feel like connectors is like just like pretty much the same philosophy. So same philosophy, excuse me here. Same philosophy, new problem. So as you saw with connectors or API integrations, the problem is that you need to go, set up the API service. You have to go through OAuth. You have to manage the credentials. And again, here Replit is making this easier for us. Again, reducing the friction to getting us to an application as fast as possible. So I just think this is a continuation of Replit doing what it does best in reducing this friction in helping builders get to an app as soon as possible and just minimizing all of the friction that comes along with trying to get that app out in the real world. And again, pretty easy to set up, as you saw earlier, heading over to integrations on the left pane and then looking through all of the different connectors that we have in place. Okay, so with that as context, I want to share a little bit about how I see integrations and connectors being helpful in the apps that I'm building and that I want to build. And the way that I would frame this is that, typically like as a vibe builder, you start building something, you might build a website and, something that's standalone, and that's great. Okay, that's pretty neat to build a website. Cool. Awesome. But then what you find out is that in order to make an application more helpful, you have to do two things. Number one is you have to add additional context. So you might have information in Notion that you want to port into an application. You might have information in Dropbox and Google Drive. If you're a business, this is where you have your SOPs, processes. You might have contacts here. You might have deal information here. You want to get this domain knowledge into your application to really make this application helpful. The next thing that you'll find is that you want to also enable tools. So you want your application to be able to do things on behalf of you or your users. So you might want it to send an email. You might want it to create a task or to write to a database. And so what I'm finding is that as I look to make my applications more helpful, more relevant, I'm doing these two things. I'm adding knowledge and I'm adding tools. And that's where connectors really comes into play, because you're going to find that all of that knowledge are in these applications like Google Drive, Notion, Dropbox, and the tools are here as well, like Gmail or Twilio, etc. So with that as context, I'd like to just jump in and show you 3 examples of what I've built with connectors to give you a little bit of inspiration in terms of what you might want to build, and also just kind of give you a sense of why I'm so excited about connectors. But before then, Francisco, happy to see if there are any questions in the chat before we jump into the demos.
Yeah, no, this is great. I've actually just seen a lot of people talking about how connectors have made things a lot easier for them to kind of build on Replit, which is awesome to see. And the other half is letting us know that they just want to see it happen and they want to see what it looks like. So I think with that, we're good to go.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So let's jump into these 3 demos. And if you want to see what makes it happen, that's a super easy demo, right? It's like sign into your account here, and that's done. But I think what's more interesting is to show you what's possible with these connectors. So let me show you these 3 examples. I'm going to start off with my own personal portfolio website. So this is, if you go to mannybernabe.com, this is custom built. I vibe coded this on Replit because I wanted to showcase my content, and I also had like some custom stats that I wanted here. And I've had a website before, and the tedious part of having a website is having to maintain it. So if I in the past, if I wanted to update this content and these stats, I'd have to go to wherever that website was being hosted, either Squarespace or Wix, and go in there and change the stats and the information. It's just tedious. And I'm a big Notion user, so I'd rather have all of that in Notion. So I built an integration to this website, to my Notion workspace. I call it Website Assets. And here I can control all of the detail that's going on in this website. So here you're seeing the politics quiz and match app that I recently built for Replit. If I wanted to change, say, like the text here, I could just say like exclamation part, go back to my website, refresh that, and then
Hey, Manny.
boom. Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. I think it's just us 2 right now. In terms of the screen, we can't see your screen quite yet.
Oh no.
Yeah. So thank you, the chat.
Thank you very much, Chad. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So here's the website here. So you can see all of the content that I've put together here. And then here are my stats. And then here is the Notion database that ports data into this website. So again, if I want to change, say, like this text here, so I just added exclamation parts here. So let me zoom in there. And if I wanted to change this to say like just like politics quiz app, boom, update that, go back here and then refresh that, that should change automatically. So I'm already in Notion. I want to change this. If I want to change this thumbnail, I can do that. If I want to change these tags, I can do that as well. I also have this set up so that I can update my social stats here. So here I can say like, oh, like, I'd say like, I check my numbers. Now I am at 12,079 followers on LinkedIn. Go back to my website, refresh this website. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, you should see that now I have this new updated number. And so this is, the power of connectors. So in full disclosure, I built this out before connectors was available. And so I had to go through the tedious part of setting this up manually using the Notion integration setup and setting up a key and everything. But now with connectors, I would just immediately sign into my Notion account here on the connectors page, and then just make this available to my Replit build to be able to do all of these things. So a great example of leveraging connectors and these integrations, if you have something that is externally facing and you have internal data and you want to pass that through to an external facing website, connectors is going to be a great way to do this. I did another example like this, which was around a customer support portal. So there's a template. I think if you go to Replit Gallery and you go to work, I think it's around here, product manager, I have customer support portal. So in the customer support portal template, I have commonly asked questions and answers that a company might have, and that's living in Notion, and it's being ported over to this externally facing application. Again, that's using Notion, but with connectors, that's so much easier to set up now. So I think that's one of my favorite examples. Again, it's internal data, have it externally facing in a very customized type of way. Any questions there, Francisco?
Yeah, it looks like one of the questions is if a connector is currently not on a list, when will it be released? So we actually have a lot more connectors coming out. I think we launched initially with a couple here during a little after the Agent 3 launch, but there's a lot more coming in soon. Yeah, please let us know what you're looking to kind of see. And it's one of the things that the kind of team is prioritizing. I also got a couple of questions around payments, and I can't say too much now, but I will say there's something coming very, very soon. But yeah, with that, we're good to go.
Stay tuned on that. Okay, cool. So let me share my screen again. All right. The second example that I wanted to show you was an example of a company agent. And here I'm using 3 connectors, and I'm actually using the connector service here. The Notion, Dropbox, and Drive. So let me head over to my Slack. And so I have an HR agent that sits in Slack. And so the idea here is that I would have like an HR channel within my organization, and I would have an agent that lives in that channel ready to help folks. So I might say like add HR agent. What's the annual learning stipend for us? What is the annual learning stipend for us? Drop that in, and my agent will pick that up and should come back to us with a response in just a moment. And as that's coming up, let me show you what's happening here. That agent has access to tools, and one of the tools is the ability to search documents in Dropbox. So in Dropbox, I've put all of the relevant HR documents. And so this agent, before it answers any question, is going to go here, reference the documentations, and then form a response. So here it is. It's going to say, hey, like the annual learning stipend is $2,000 per year. Here's what it can be used for. And then here are the resources. And what's cool about this is that one is that all of this response is grounded in my company's actual documentation. And then two, I also have a link to the actual document so I can go and just double check it. So here it is, the full performance career policy information that I can go in reference. And that's again using the Dropbox connector to go and reference that information and bring it into play. I can also do something like say like, hey agent, unfortunately, George Smith is going to be leaving us for another company. Can you prepare an exit interview process for him, please? Drop that in there. And so now agent is going to reference another tool. In this case, it's got a exit interview process tool that it'll reference, and it has different requirements for this process. And it should come back and say like, yeah, sure. Like, can you give me some details? And I can say like, yeah, George Smith was in the engineering department and his title was programmer, and his last day is actually going to be tomorrow, October 10th, 2025. So I'll drop that in there. And so now that's sort of the second step in this process. So now this agent is going to take that information and put together a template for an HR person to start that exit interview. So if we go back here, we can say like, yeah, here's your exit interview. I can click here. And now you can see that I have like this nice template here with the details of what I just passed through. And then I can also like here are the different questions that you have right here. You can also add like a number of other steps. You can like, I would now like use the email, like the resend documentation connector here to maybe send an email to somebody. I might use the like the Notion integration to update a database. Like you can get like very creative. Like and so I would think about like what are the different processes that somebody in HR has to do. I would map that out and try to integrate as much as possible into this agent to kind of just help streamline these types of processes. So that is the HR agent. And again, I'm using the 3 connectors, Notion, Dropbox, and Google Drive here to power the domain knowledge for this agent, but also the actions here in particular with Google Drive with this agent. And Francisco, feel free to stop me if there are any questions that are popping up on this demo. Otherwise, happy to continue to move on to the next one.
Yeah, there's a great question here from Elena. Can you explain the role of Replit in this example? Can you build the agent fully in Replit, although it does not have an interface other than Slack?
Great question. Okay, so the role in Replit is to vibe code all of the software that you need to run this. So here you see that I am in source Mastra. Okay, so I have my agent, the information for my agent. I have the information for the tools, how the agent is going to engage with a user request. And so Replit is helping me vibe code all of this. So I'm just saying like, hey, like Replit, I need an agent that does this, that goes into Dropbox, collects the information, responds to a user inquiry. And then I'm using Replit to then publish to Slack so that when I go to Slack, I can see this interaction. So that's where Replit is coming into play. Where did I just put that? I just had Replit. Did I exit out of Replit? Sorry about that. Okay, no, I had it right here. Didn't I just have it?
And then while Manny's
sorry about
going
that.
through there, oh no, you're good to go. A couple of questions about if this is being recorded. Yes, we'll send out a kind of like a link after, but you can always kind of click out recordings for all of our live streams moving forward.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, I just changed the header here on the tab for me. Okay, so I'm using I'm using Replit so that I can direct the build of this agent in a natural language type of format. So here I can say like, hey, can you add a new tool that sends, or no, actually what I would do, I'd say for the exit interview tool, can you add an additional step such that an email gets sent to the head of the department for where that employee is exiting? And then I would go back and use the resent integration to set that up. So, okay, so then there was a second part to that question in terms of, can the interface be different from Slack? At the moment, no. That is, I know, something that the team is working on, but if you go here to agents and automations, you have two options. You can either go have it be a Slack facing automation, or you can have it be a Telegram agent. And I'm sure there's a way, some ways to kind of have it be like more general. So like the next thing that I want to do is I want to have an agent that sits on my website. So when you go to mannybernabe.com, I might have like an agent here that I vibe coded in Replit that can chat with you and answer your questions. Like I get like a lot of like folks coming through my contact page and they ask me different questions. I might just have an agent pick that up and take actions on it before it even comes to me, for example. So that's the next thing that I'm going to ask the Replit team about, and I'm sure there's a way to do it. But for right now, because this is still in beta, the safest bet is to either go through Slack or through Telegram. And if you look at my content, I have an example of a Telegram agent that I built out as well.
Awesome. I have one last question here from Robert. I think it was actually a great one. When you're new to agents, is has the HR agent you've created been pre-trained?
Great question. No, it hasn't. No. What's happening here is I'm using something called RAG, Retrieval Augmentation Generation. So when the question comes into agent, it's not gonna it's gonna first look for information in its domain knowledge. Then it's gonna respond back to the Slack, to the user. So I'm using just a generic LLM here to power this. And I'm just telling the agent, I'm directing the agent that like, before you answer anything, just go here and make sure you get some grounding for that. And if you don't, then just respond with, I don't know. And it's using RAG. And why I like this approach is because it's the simplest to implement. If you have to fine tune and train your custom agent in LLM, that gets very tedious and actually pretty tough. And so like RAG is pretty straightforward to do. You just, there's a couple of different steps that you have to follow. I can go more into that. It's a little bit more technical, but it's pretty straightforward, pretty established pattern. And it's a great way to give your agent domain information and ground it in documentation pretty straightforwardly, pretty established pattern. So to answer your question, no, not pre-trained, but it does have this RAG implementation that keeps the agent responses grounded and also keeps it from hallucinating. This is another big problem, and particularly in business, is just you have a low appetite or risk for hallucinations. And so if you're using RAG, it really brings down that risk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manny. Yeah, I think we're good.
Great question. Okay. All right. So the next, this is my favorite build. I built this I built this. Let me share my screen. I built this yesterday. I was like, hey, I need like a really cool like business demo for folks. And I built this in an hour. This is really neat. Okay, so let's say you're in HubSpot, right? And so you're managing a sales team in HubSpot. Okay, great. HubSpot is awesome for all of this information. Okay, you have the deal, when it closed, the amount, and the sales rep. But this is a little boring. It's a little boring and it's kind of generic. How would I, as a salesperson, make this more fun? And so the idea that came to mind was like, what if you had like a sports style dashboard of sorts that where you can put your salespeople's information and track it almost like you would like an ESPN site of sorts. So I built this. I call it my sales champions leaderboard. It's pulling all of this information from HubSpot, but it's making it a little bit more interesting about the things that I really care about as a sales leader. Like, boom, I want to know this week how much revenue did we bring in, how many deals did we close, what is our growth rate? Okay, what are some like highlights? Like, okay, biggest deal, Jennifer Kim, 67K. Most deals, Sarah Chen, 12. Who's trending? Who's moving fast? Jennifer Kim. And then the other thing here that I should have highlighted too, I've got this little ticker here that's also like showing like stats from the different salespeople. Michael Rodriguez securing a third with strong performance. I just think this is kind of fun. And then here's my leaderboard. So I can see like, okay, for this period, Jennifer Kim is killing it. She's got like a champion tag. She's on a hot streak, closed 10 deals this period. And this is like automatically updated. You just saw that happen. And then if I want to like click into this a little bit further and say like, okay, like what are these 10 deals that Jennifer has closed? I can go in here and like say like, okay, cool. Like, oh, she closed this deal. And I'm like, oh, maintenance management system. Like I haven't seen that one. Tell me more. So now I can link back to HubSpot and go into the details of this particular deal and learn more. And so again, I think this is the power of combining vibe coding with these different tools. Like this is a very generic, bland, like cookie cutter output. But if I want to make it custom to my company's needs, personalities, etc., I can vibe code that. This took me an hour to vibe code and make something cool and interesting for my team and have it be something that's like particular to how I want to manage my team and how my company does things. The last thing I want to show you here, and I did this last minute today, was I was thinking like, back when I was working with sales teams, it was a big deal to close a deal, right? Like you rang the bell when you close a deal. So I was thinking like, what is the equivalent of ringing the bell in the sales champion dashboard? I came up with this. So like when somebody closes a deal, this is what you would get. You get like new sale close, Michael Rodriguez, 87K, and a kind of a quote from the manager. So like, and you can also have like different like pop-ups and different interactions here as well. Like somebody closes their first deal, like you might have it pop it up on the big board, and like I would imagine this being like on a big board in the sales department, and so you can have a lot of fun with this. I thought that was just such a great example of, again, using a connector. In this case, I'm using the HubSpot connector. I'm porting all that data in, and I'm building something new, fresh, and something that's fun for me and my team. What does the chat think about this demo?
Before I go into that, I just want to say, like, he is not kidding. He literally was like creating this. Like yesterday, we went on this like dry run just to make sure like we covered everything we were going to talk about, and what kind of questions to ask, at least from my end, and that sort of thing. And I remember seeing like the agent was literally working. It's like, oh, is this still kind of in progress? And that's one of the amazing things about Replit is you can literally kind of begin to create, some of the projects you're working on, or submit these prompts and walk away from it, kind of go over and focus on some other tasks you have at hand, and agent will continue to work. And if you have the mobile app, it'll actually let you know the progress and like when it's complete. So it just makes it so easy to be able to it's like the easiest way to multitask ever, right? You can literally be coding up and designing your project while also focusing on like more immediate tasks in front of you. But no, a lot of folks are saying how they really love this example. They kind of like relate to it, and the gong especially, I think, is one, or like the celebration is something they appreciate.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, what you'll see in a lot of these builds, again, it's like you have data somewhere, but it's kind of generic, and that's great. Like Notion is great. It's a database note-taking application. Great. It does an amazing job at that. But what if I want to build on something on top of that that's custom, that's unique, particular to me? Like, how do I do that? I vibe code it in Replit and I connect it to Notion. Same thing here, like HubSpot, generic data. How do I make it custom to me and my company? I vibe code that in Replit and I connect it via connectors. So I just really love that pattern. And if you have that mindset, I think you're just gonna you're gonna come up with so many great ideas. And what's awesome is that you don't have to, build something completely new from scratch. Like one of the problems I think that keeps teams from doing some fun things like this is that you have to rip everything out. Like, oh, now I have to transfer all of my data from HubSpot into a database. Like, who wants to do that? And like, then I don't get all the cool things that HubSpot gives me. Like, nobody wants to do that. Great, you don't have to do that. You can just have that data piped in into your own custom build, and you can just do what you do in HubSpot. Continue to do, have HubSpot that what it does best, but you can have something that's custom and really cool that's just on top of that. So I really like that kind of way of thinking about things.
Absolutely. And it's just like anything is possible, right? It's one of those things where I think like so many things are that you may have like kind of had in your mind for some time. You're kind of thinking about testing it out. I know people here are talking about how they've always wanted something like this, but just the thought of beginning to create some sort of dashboard was very daunting, and a lot of questions around like how to get started. And really, I think one of the number one things is like if you have an idea, it's really just about testing it out. Kind of build something small, kind of iterate as you go. But the best way I can really recommend is just to get started and kind of begin to get your hands a little bit dirty, and then like there's always all these resources, live streams and everything else, and kind of like help you along the way. And then other training videos or manuals, yes, if you go to our website, there's a blog, and there's also like kind of like a Replit MD, which gives you a variety of different documentation and training materials. Manny also creates amazing guides. If you go onto his Twitter, you'll kind of see like different breakdowns of what he's up to, what he's working on, and kind of like everything else in between. So definitely lots to kind of explore there.
Awesome. I've got a couple more points that I want to cover, but before we jump into that, I just have a question for the chat. And I guess having seen some of the demos that I put together, what's coming to mind for you? Like, what new ideas are percolating for you? What would you be interested in building? I would love for you to drop that in the chat. I'd love for you to also see what other people are thinking of building. Again, you can go to I would go to the connector section, look through all of these, and I'm sure you're gonna get like a bunch of ideas. So like, Discord, like for me, I would love to have, like if I'm managing a Discord, have an application that is constantly monitoring my Discord chat. Maybe it has an ability to respond immediately to different questions. So like the agent that I have in Slack built something similar for Discord. Twilio sending text messages, emails, Google Sheets. Like actually, recently I used Google Sheets integration. Just recently, actually, I set up a website really quickly, and I wanted to collect emails. And I didn't want to go through the trouble of setting up a database. So I just set up this a connector, and I just said like, hey, when somebody drops their email here, just drop it in a Google Sheet. Pretty fast. Took me like 5 minutes. So a great just to have that handy and to do that. So I'd love for people to drop their ideas in the chat, and then we'll come back and check those out. Okay, so as we close, I hope you can see just the power of connectors and why I'm so excited about this. It's just really, again, Replit reducing the friction of people getting to their app and to their idea sooner. I love it. Two more things that I think make connectors really, really awesome. Number one is that you get documentation included. And so a little bit of context here. So like, I told you earlier that I built my personal portfolio website using the Notion integration. I had to do that manually. And part of what I had to do there is go out and actually get the documentation for how the API is managed from Notion developers, from the Notion developers site, and then grab that and put it into context for agent so that I can build out that functionality. And you'll have to do that quite a bit, actually, as you're connecting different tools and services. But with connectors, Replit is automatically doing that for you. It's automatically grabbing the most recent documentation and it's included in that connector. So when you go and you see the options here, assume that Replit also has the latest documentation on how to handle this service, this API, what you can do with it. And you can check into here, you can see all the different functions that you can do with this API. And that's because Replit's got that documentation there as well. Super handy again. So now I don't have to go to OpenAI and grab their documentation, drop it into chat, and have Replit build that out. Very neat. The other cool feature here is around having centralized control for all of your applications and all the access those applications have in one place. So here you can see that I have all of these tools and connectors activated. I can go into, say, Notion and see which of my applications have access to this Notion account. If you're an admin on a Teams account or an enterprise account, you can control which connectors your team members have access to. You can see which applications have access to what connectors and services. And you can also control what services are available through each one of the connectors. So if you're managing a team, this is going to be super handy. And I know, this is kind of one of the main concerns that I think a lot of IT groups have with vibe coding is kind of this access sprawl. Like, how do I manage this control across all these vibe coders that are just jamming on our system? And I think this is going to be like a lifesaver for IT groups. I just really wanted to call out those two cherries on top that just kind of make the connectors features all that more sweeter. So with that, I would love to kind of hear what people are saying in the chat. What are they thinking about building? And my call to action here would be like, go out and build something. Like, go and try something out, build something custom. Go to connectors, see what's available, and would love for you to share it on social. I'm on X. You can tag me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can tag me there. And just really excited to see what you guys build.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm seeing some great, things come in through the chat here. Connector to Google Translation, latest AI tools, quiz dashboard, connector to LinkedIn to manage your profile via Slack messages. I thought was really, really interesting. And let's see here. Julia had a really cool one. I have no experience. I'm just resourceful. This has changed my life. Literally. It has been so fun. I built my daughter a study guide app. She wants to be an astrophysicist, built it in 2 hours and 38 minutes. Again, a lot of these stories are just so amazing to see and just very, very cool to kind of understand what people are up to and what projects they're building.
That's awesome.
One last thing here, which is great, also from Elena. It would be great to just have one of these events going from idea to launch within an hour. Something easy just for us to understand. I'm so glad you bring that up because it's a conversation I've literally had with Manny and actually one of our previous guests, Raymar, who were kind of just like toying with the idea as well. And we're trying to do something where exactly just that, where we kind of like folks submit an idea or something you kind of want to see from start to finish. And we'll try to keep it somewhat concise just so you can kind of do it within an hour or 45 minutes, things like that. So you can kind of see what it looks like from start to finish and then kind of just inspire folks to kind of, build their own projects and really kind of start going and just digging in.
Awesome.
Great. Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Looks like Julia will be joining. Great. But yeah, I think with that, I think we're just about almost at time here, maybe a little bit early. Thank you so much for all the questions you dropped in. There's a couple here that I'll be saving and kind of going back to the team and getting answers for. Eric asked a good one. But with that, what we're hoping to do is actually come back next week as well. We'll be sending out another email for the next live stream. And anyone that registered for this one, what we end up doing is also sending an invite for the upcoming one. I think we're probably going to be featuring another creator along with Manny and just kind of showcase some of the things that folks have been building. And if there's any suggestions or things you want to see, please let us know. We're always kind of trying to create, just content that is actually interesting to folks and things that will actually be helpful. So please let me know. I'm the head of community here at Replit as well. There's a lot more community initiatives and programming coming very, very soon, things that you can kind of be a part of. And please feel free to join our discourse. We're always welcoming new members. But with that, any closing statements, Manny, from your side?
No, I think that the best way to appreciate connectors is going out and building and seeing what you can do in an hour. And again, I want to see those builds. Tag me on LinkedIn, tag me on X, tag Replit. We love to see it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. We'll see you next week. And again, appreciate your time, y'all.